What's up, Payco?
What's going on, Jobo? So we're live tonight.
What's up?
Austin's getting us set up right now, man. And dude, thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
My honor. Hey, real quick, before we jump in anything, y'all get up for y'all's youth pastors. Oh, you can do better than that. They take you to Ecuador. They deal with your junk. They put sometimes you above their own marriage, above their own kids because you need them. They show up. This is not about a platform. This is about relationships.
Come on.
And I promise you, I tell my students this all the time. If you didn't come to my youth group, you need to be going to a youth group in Onion, Alabama. Because I know your youth pastor is for real. And when he's speaking to you, it's not because he gets to. It's because he wants to, because he's being obedient. So I had to do that. I didn't tell him I was going to do that, but I just wanted to do that. So,
man, thank you. And I'd say the same thing about you, man. I'll say this. When we were 12 years old skating in the parking lot, if someone would have told us we'd have both been youth pastors, I'd have laughed.
Same here.
We were going to be professional skateboarders. Well, you saw how that ended.
He could have actually done it. He was basically like like pre-pro, whatever they call them nowadays. But I was just a poser, realistically.
Hey, also, I found a video the other day. TJ used to skateboard too. And I found a video, and somebody said, "Is that TJ?" I said, "Oh, my gosh, it is." It's great. So, man, first thing out of the gate, we've been friends for so long. You've always went by Jobo. Some of the newer students, you hear Payco, and you're like, who's that? Well, that's my nickname, and that's a lot of people around the church call me Payco. When I became youth pastor, Pastor Bill wanted a lot of people to call me Pastor Nick, just to kind of change that. But I don't think Jobo will ever call me Nick again. It just won't have. I'll never call him John Wesley again unless it's something formal. But, man, we got to tell him how we got these names. We got to start off with that.
Okay, so we used to skateboard, and my first name is John Wesley. That's 10 letters long with no space, and the W's not capitalized. First grade was horrible. I'd learned half the alphabet to spell my own name. And then my brother's name's Luke. I used to look at my mom and be like, "Do you hate me? What did I do to you?" Anyways, so we used to skate, and we had some friends that we hung out with, Garrett and Grant Bolin, and they were tired of calling me John Wesley. So we were skating, and Grant had this jacket, and we called it the hobo jacket. I mean, he is probably as big as TJ now at 13, 14. He was a small fella. And I put it on, and it came up to like right here on my wrist. And he's like, "Bro." I was like, "I know. It is what it is." And so they just started throwing it around, and they were like, "We're going to just start throwing names out." So we went from like Dodo to Jobo to Ho-Ho, and then it just kind of stuck at Jobo, literally. And I was like, "I ain't doing that. I'm not doing that." And I remember I grew up in this church. And when I went to Arab, Alabama, where I live now with my beautiful wife and 3 kids, I was like, finally, I can put to rest the nickname Jobo. And to this day, if you go to our app on our church, it says Pastor Jobo.
That's who he is. This is Pastor Jobo.
It happened. So if you don't like your nickname, you need to stop it immediately because it'll follow you forever.
He's not lying. So similar story. We're around the same age. I was at Jobo's house. He had just became Jobo. We were still like going from saying that 10-letter long name to Jobo. We were playing football, and there's 2 Nicks there. It was me and Nick Weldon. And 2 weeks before that, I was at a small group, and one of my friend's moms said, I had a shirt on it. It said Paco jeans, P-A-C-O jeans. She looked at me. And she said, "I'm going to call you Payco." And I said, "What in the world is that? What is Payco?" And I'm like, "Okay, that's cool." Just that awkward, like when mom and dads come up to you of your friends and they're like, "Hey, buddy." And you're like, "Don't call me buddy." That's how I felt. And I was like, nobody's going to call me Payco. So we're playing football. Jobo throws the ball. He says, "Hey, Nick." He's like, "We got to give one of y'all a nickname." Well, Mitch, his mom, gave me Payco. He goes, "Well, my mom gave Nick Russell nickname, Pecos. Let's call him that. And they all agreed unanimously.
He didn't get to pick, guys. Y'all realize like he's saying no, and we're all like in agreement over here, and he's like, we're not doing
Yeah,
this.
they're just like, we're gonna call him Pecos. And I'm like, absolutely not. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, what does that even mean? And for the first like year, they would say Pecos, and it would just drive me insane. And then one day I'm just like, you know what? I'm Pecos. It is what it is. And then I added a Y to it, and Jobo still.
Yeah, I don't understand. So when you get a nickname, I don't feel like you should get the right to spell your nickname. Just like as when you're born, you're not like, "Hey, mom, so spell my name this way." You didn't sit up and do that. You were crying and hungry and pooping yourself, right? So when you get a nickname, you don't get to pick it. You don't get to pick the way it's spelled. And then like halfway through, I don't know, 5 years later, he's like, "Let's add a Y." I'm like, "No,"
Still to this
and
day,
we argue about it.
when I go to church to preach, he said his name's Pecos without the Y, and I'm like, come on, man. Like, but you know, the name stuck forever. People still call me Pecos to this day. People I've never met, like, hey Pecos, and I'm like, how do you even know I go by that name? Like, what is that?
My youth group knows him as Pecos.
Yeah,
Like I reference, he's that good of a pastor. I reference him quite often, and so my youth group does not know you as Nick; they know you as Pecos
yeah. When
with no Y.
Pastor Nick, who's that? But you know, we did have this weird. I'll end with this. Me, you, and Zach had this idea. 3 friends. We all have 2 hands with 4 knuckles. I was going to get Zach and Jobo. He was going to get Jobo. He was going to get Zach and Pecos. And we were like 14. We're like, oh, this would be so cool. I'm glad we didn't do that. I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm not sitting up here with Jobo and Zach on my hands. But
I guess if you ever got in a fight, just who you want to like, betray. Like, you're
so
punch somebody, be like, just remember, bam.
I know we'll get to this part here in a minute, man. So you're a youth pastor. You're married, got 3 beautiful kids, and man, you know, there's so many pictures I could have shared tonight and videos of just.
I'm glad you didn't. Thank you.
But I want to spend most of the time, man. I just want you to share your heart and share your story of where you came from. You and I grew up in this room.
Yeah.
This was our youth room when we were growing up, and it makes you feel old now. We're both 32, and it's like that was a long time. Yeah.
Hey, that was
Hey,
show respect to
on.
your elders, please.
So
If
Yeah.
we're old, then what are some other people in here?
I got some mail for Medicare the other day. I kind of felt it.
Okay, I ain't got that yet, but I guess
On my birthday.
it's coming.
So man, talk about, I met you here at the church when I started coming here, and we grew up in youth together. So kind of tell us what that looked like. Did you grow up in church? Did you just start coming to church? And what did the youth group look like for you? What did it mean to you? And just kind of tell us about that.
Yeah, first and foremost, I just want to invite Jesus into the room. So without Jesus, my story is pointless. So without him, I'm not who I am. Okay? I want you to hear that first and foremost. So who in here has their Bibles? Get them out. Right? You don't go to McDonald's and ask for a double cheeseburger and then not give them money. Right? That's the rules. So when you come to the house of God, come with your Bible, come prepared, and be expecting, right? So I grew up in this church, and I went from building 200 to building 300 to building 100, and our youth group was basically it's your youth group, but we flipped and we used to do worship that way. So like right behind Miss Autumn, right over there, where's Aiden? Aiden, go stand in that place I asked you to stand. Right there is when I knew that I wanted to be a youth pastor.
That's it.
I was in this room sitting in your seat, and that's where I knew. And so, yeah, I grew up in church. And I just remember thinking for a long time, you're good, man. I appreciate that. Man, what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to get there? How do I get to that point? Like, right? That's what you're asking. Like, how did you get to that point, Jobo? Well, let me tell you. I just showed up. I was just willing. I was just open. I was just honest. Right? How many of you guys are in here are drug kids? Ooh, y'all are like, oh my God. No, I'm talking about being drugged to church. Right? By your hair. Oh, y'all take a deep breath, right? Laugh. Take a deep breath. Oh, he got so serious so fast. No. If the doors of this church were open, and Miss Autumn could back me up, and several other people that are in that building, that's where the old people are, right? They could back me up on this. They drug me to church. Yeah, we're getting
We
there.
almost in that category.
So we grew up together. We did all the things that we just talked about, but I think the one thing that kind of kept us together is, we just genuinely loved Jesus. I never thought I'd have been a youth pastor. I just remember in that moment. Now, to get to that moment, you've got to be open. You know what I mean? I don't just become a youth pastor. I don't just get married. I don't just have kids. I don't just get a job. I don't just graduate high school like some of you guys are going to do, right? I don't just get to go to camp. You got to prepare and be willing and be open and be honest. So for me, I just remember my mom and dad brought us here all the time. And I just kind of did church because that's what we were supposed to do. I just sat in the back. Don't ask me to talk. Don't ask me to read nothing. I don't want to pray. I can't sing, so that's got me out of worship. I just don't want to do anything. I just want to hang out with my friends and have fun. And that's an okay place to be. But in 20 years, do you want to look back and that's the only thing you got out of church? Is that the only thing you got out of your youth group? I mean, I get it, right? Like, what was trending when me and you were their age, y'all's age, it ain't trending now. I was thinking about it. If I'm not mistaken, you used to wear one of those belts that had like all those little buckles,
Studs on
the
it.
studs.
Yeah. I
And
used to
he
wear
would
those.
wear the belt buckle back here. So
Yeah.
that way when he would face plant, if he messed up on a skateboard, it wouldn't like rip his stomach open. So he wore it back. I'll never forget. Does any of you wear one of those?
Anybody
Hannah's
else?
like, yeah, it's in the back of my closet. Do
My
y'all even know what
grandmother had one. Yeah.
do y'all even know what I'm talking about? Okay, like two people. Right? Like trends come and go, but Jesus don't. You know what I mean?
Come on, that's good.
So it was church was not what we did, it was who we are. Like I remember my dad, I used to argue with him. I do not want to get up and go to church tomorrow morning. Because my mom and dad would wake us up at 6 a.m. and we'd drive 30 minutes because we didn't live in Aniana. And they were like, this is what we do and this is who we are. And I was like, I can't wait until I'm bigger than you, dude, because I'm not going with you. And it just changed. So it's not, you've got to allow it to not be something you go to. You got to allow it to be something that you are. If God forbid, I rebuke this, but if this building's not here tomorrow, are y'all showing up next week? I heard one person say yes. It's going to be you and Pastor Nick, right? Like it goes on without the building.
Rebuild 2.0. There we go.
Rebuild 2.0. Hopefully not, right? So, but yeah, it's a big deal. So I want you guys to realize that things come and go, but Jesus don't. And so, like when you look back, what's it going to be like?
So, on top of that, man, we both hit a season where we just didn't want to be in church, and we had to be here. There's a guy named Perry Stone. He used to come and do a service on Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday. Literally, they called it camp meeting, and we had to be here every single night. And what we would do,
We didn't meet in a tent though. We met in the
we
church.
just, I don't know why they called it camp meeting, but we had this big pink bus, and we would go hide in it and order pizza. And we got caught one time because the other Nick ordered the pizza off his dad's credit card, and he got an alert. And he says, "Why did I just get an alert for $50 to Domino's delivered to the church?" And we're in the back, and then I don't even. I think it was Roe Henderson.
Yep.
He can't. Y'all boys need to get back in service. And I'm just, can we finish eating first? Like, but we got to a point we were just at church all the time that church just became a to-do list. So, so growing up in church, many of you may be sitting here like, that's exactly how I feel. I feel like church has become a to-do list. I show up, I serve, I do my thing, I go home, and I don't think about it till next Wednesday. And that's just a dark place to be. And so that's what most of our friends, we went through youth, and yes, we encountered God. Yes, we had moments. We all went to the altar with tears, and God moved. And I served in the worship on the worship team. We both preached, but I think for both of us, it kind of hit us after we got out of youth. So you get through youth, we graduate about where Austin's sitting. I remember standing up there, and I was so excited for my youth pastor to give me my graduation Bible.
I
Because
still have mine. Do you have yours?
somewhere I got to find it, but I was so excited because all I had was like this New King James Bible, and I couldn't understand it. So um, I remember we graduated and we were just like, what do we do? Me and you went for a little while, did some HVAC work in Montgomery. We didn't even come to church. And man, it was just like, it seemed like 6 months of just like, what's going on? Like we've graduated, we did the big things, we went to the big conferences. We worshiped in a room with 5,000 people in Birmingham. We're like, we did it. We've been a part of it. We've reached people. Then we graduate. It's like, now what? So tell them, you and I, we both graduate. We stay here. We get involved in leadership with another ministry. So kind of tell us, what did that look like for you, and what kind of road did that take you down?
Yeah, I remember. I remember sitting or standing right beside you, and I was excited about getting my graduation Bible. Mine does say Jobo on it. Does yours say Paco?
It does.
It does say Paco without the Y.
PACO, yeah.
Point proven. Anyways, I do. I remember graduating and kind of feeling like aimless. Who in here is a senior? What about juniors? Look, in the next 2 years, you're not going to be allowed to sit in this room as a student. And Pastor Nick and Pastor Lauren are not going to necessarily always check up on you. It will be your responsibility for your faith journey. That's on you. All the love, all the care that they show for 6 years or 7 years is to get you to a point where you know what to do when you get to walk across that stage as a grad. And I just remember feeling so aimless. So yeah, like Pastor Nick said, we went to Montgomery. We worked for a summer. I messed around with some stuff I shouldn't have messed around with. I had my first cigarette and thought I was going to die. Literally smoked half of it and was like, I'm going to pass out. And I'm like, this is the day I meet Jesus. Please let me meet Jesus. And I was like, I'm going to die. And we came back and I was like, okay, Lord, if you really want me to do something, please just show up. Just show up in my life. And I remember just coming back to church, serving wherever I could, doing whatever was possible, asking Miss Donna what needed to be cleaned, just being available and allowing God to do whatever he wanted to do. I wasn't looking for, someone to get sick. Someone, you know what I mean? You build these expectations in your head. Someone's going to get sick and they're going to ask me to preach and they're going to put the microphone in my hand. If that's all you're chasing, I promise you it's very, very empty and dark. But if you will just be available and allow God to start using you in the smallest elements, right? The Bible says if you can be trusted with a little, you can be trusted with a lot. What little thing are you neglecting that God's put in your life for you to be responsible for? Mine was just my obedience and showing up. So I remember we come back that summer and some things had changed. Our youth pastor had walked away. So the whole youth group was just different. I threw myself into CrossFit, just thought, man, if I could get fit and look buff like Thor, I would be happy. And I got ripped as I've ever been in my life and was so empty. I remember coming back from vacation and my dad was like, hey, I need you to listen to this voicemail. And I was like, okay. And it was his boss with the company that he worked for. We had just come back from Gulf Shores. Anybody ever been to Gulf Shores? Right? Who likes them beaches? Yeah. Let's go. We have a good time. And I remember growing up, my dad always used to say this, when we get older, we will live at the beach. And he said, here, listen to this voicemail. And it was his boss. It says, hey, we got an opportunity. The company was launching a new store in Foley, Alabama. And he's like, we're going to go in 6 months. But I got to leave next week. And I was like, what? And I was getting myself ready, and my sister was getting ready to graduate. And I was just never felt released to leave this church. And the day had come. I was working for a company in Coleman, and I drove from Coleman that night. It was a Wednesday night. I went and did CrossFit. I gotten back into leadership in the youth ministry. God was showing up, doing some stuff, allowing us to kind of speak and kind of take bigger roles, not because we wanted to, but I felt like the Lord was really allowing us because of our obedience. And I remember going to my grandparents. They live about 3 miles down the road, saying bye to my mom and dad. My sister had just graduated. It was like June the 3rd or something. They were leaving. And I pulled up in the front. I could take you to the parking spot. I pulled in the front parking lot in my car and just cried my eyes out. I was like, I love my parents. If my parents see this at any point on any network, I love y'all. I miss y'all. I have a desire to be around them all the time, but I didn't feel released. And I just remember fighting God, and I was bawling my eyes out, going, why won't you let me go? And if you could fast forward that, you know the answer, right? You read the Bible, it's like, oh yeah, like why did Peter or James or John or any of them, why'd they act like that? Well, it's easy to say that when you know the end of the book. But when you're in the moment, you're just like, God. And I just remember I was like, God, I'm going to just let you have it all at this point. I don't know what else to do besides just letting you have it. And the girl that I was dating at that point, or trying to date, I liked her more than she liked me. So if you're in that kind of relationship, get out right now. She brought me some chicken and brought me some water, and I had asked for a Dr. Pepper. I was very mad. I was already emotional. And I ate my chicken and went inside, and I just did what I was supposed to do. I just went to church and just allowed God to do whatever he wanted to do. Because guess what, guys? Someone's Wednesday could be this Wednesday. Do you want to be a part of that moment?
Yeah. I'm going to stop you right there and just give some context. I know you wanted to share a verse, so something to just kind of help you understand what I went through, what Jobo went through, and a lot of our friends. We came into youth. Our youth group was actually down by the Shell station in Aniana, is behind it. We were in youth there for like a year. Then we moved here. A year after that, our youth pastor tells us he's leaving. We're like, what's going, like, our world, like, we were coming out 8th grade into
Oh, it was a
grade,
bombshell, guys. We thought our lives were over.
and we were like, what? Or maybe it's 9th grade into 10th. I can't, somewhere around there. And then we had another youth pastor come in for 3 months. We thought he was going to be our youth pastor. He decided, nope, I'm going back to Atlanta. He was here 3 months. And in that 3 months, he had formed like this clique, and we weren't in it. And so then we have another youth pastor. You guys saw 3 of our 4 youth pastors last year at Echo Summer Night. So there's no beef. I love them. I work for one of them part-time now. We love them. They impacted our lives incredibly. But there's a story to this. He felt like he needed to go plant a church in Alabaster, so he left right after we graduated. And then we say it's another youth pastor because we were youth leaders under the last youth pastor we had. So we had a total of 4 people in our lives through youth and as we were leaders in youth. And through all that, and then your parents say, hey, we're leaving. It kind of felt like, why is everybody leaving? Is there something going on we don't know about? Like, is this church thing even real? Like, what is going on? And so I know you felt that way, especially when your parents left. My parents stayed here, but I remember when our last youth pastor, he got asked to leave. I remember sitting in this room crying like, God, our youth group was like 350 people. I remember sitting in here crying like, God, what are you doing? We are reaching people. God is moving. Why is he being asked to leave? And I remember I was 19 years old. I was just broken. And I know you felt the same way. And then, so in that, going into that next part, man, I think all of us that were in leadership then, we probably went through like a year to a year and a half. That's when I had the worst part of my life. And I know that's when you went through some stuff too. And man, I just want you to touch on that because there's some people in here that are graduated. There's some people that are still in school. But I feel like some people don't talk about the darkest parts. Here's the thing. I love talking about Jesus. I love talking about the good things in the Bible. But I know this. You guys are fighting some dark things right now as we speak, and you don't want to talk about them. That's the whole purpose of this real night is. It's not to come to preach another message. We do discipleship on Sunday mornings. We're going to preach every other Wednesday. We're going to talk about Jesus, how good he is. We're going to do that. But I need you to hear that it's not always sunshine and rainbows. There are some difficulties, and you're going to go through some stuff, but there's hope. You can get through it. So we go through all these youth pastors, man, and we're part of a big ministry. It falls apart. The ministry that was connected to that fell apart, and man, it just kind of leaves you like it's almost like when you look up to somebody and they have a big moral failure, like they get arrested or something like that. You're like, oh my gosh, like what do I do? Like, so that's the only thing I can compare it to. But as much as we learned and grew in youth, there's a lot of pain. There was a lot of storms. So share what you got to share, man. But I want you to talk about after 2013. It was a dark period of your time before you met your wife. So I just want you to touch on that.
Yeah, so like he said, we were kind of used to people just leaving. So I got a couple of students getting ready to graduate, and I was like, man, it's been an honor to be your youth pastor the whole time. And it was funny, right before you shot me a text and said, hey, man, I got an idea. You want to come hang out? I said, sure. I was thinking about the longevity of, like, statistically, guys, youth pastors don't last more than 18 months. The rollover of youth pastors is crazy. So I'm telling you, you're blessed because he weathers the storms. They weather the storms. I've seen it before they became youth pastors. They learned in past seasons. But yeah, it was pretty dark. So 2013, we had kind of flopped back and forth, and this guy come in and got asked to leave, like you said, and a few different things. And so I threw myself into a relationship with a girl. I had dated her for years on and off, and this other girl as well. So I got this nickname. They both went to school together. I was homeschooled. I got this nickname because I dated one for 6 months, and then I'd break up with her, and then I'd date the other one, and they called me the flipper. And I didn't know this until, like, we had grown up a little bit, and one of them finally told me, guys, that's not a cool nickname to have. It's funny because when I was at work older and I was asking the Lord if I could date this other girl, one of them ended up working with me, and she threw my name in the dirt because of stuff I had done in the past because I had not asked for forgiveness. So what you do now matters. And I just remember throwing myself into that, throwing myself deeper into CrossFit, trying to stay whatever fit and everything. And, like, my spirit man was just dying on the inside. I was coming to church and I was faking it. Any of you guys ever done that before? You just fake it, man. I'm just here. Put me on I registered or checked in. I'm here. Yeah. That fundraiser is going. Yeah. I don't know about that. And I just remember feeling so dark and empty. Yeah. And Lord, you keep taking people away. Why does it even matter? And I just remember there was a moment where I was just like, Lord, I want to go back to that moment where I was standing in that room, and if you would just let me talk about you, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I was so broke and so tired of faking it, right? Like our society is so used to just, like, smiling. I would love to see how a family looks like before the picture and then after the picture, not the actual picture. Because that's the real story of that family.
Right when your mom says, "Everybody smile."
Everybody smile for that one moment, right? It looks real good. And then as soon as they're like, good, or the flash goes off, you're like, I freaking hate you, dude. You know what I mean? Like, whatever it may be. I got tired of living in that. I was like, God, I just, you know what? Whatever. And I just remember one of my buddies, I just broke, and I went to him, and we were meeting at, any of you guys like Huddle House? Oh, come on. Y'all we're talking about food. Do you guys like Huddle House? It's all right. All right. Well, it was overrated. Well, back in the day, it was the place to eat. Yeah. That because it was one of the only places open when we would get done with youth. And I just met with one of my buddies, and he's like, I was like, this is where it is. I'm tired of being addicted to pornography. I'm tired of messing around with these girls like I shouldn't be. I need help. He said, right now I'll become your accountability partner. And he was engaged to his future wife. And I was like, all right, that sounds good. What are we going to do? He's like, we're going to fast right now for God to show up in your life. And I was like, okay. I just told you like my deepest, darkest secrets. Like, what do you mean? And he's like, you want to change, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, we're going to quit doing the same thing over and over again because that's called insanity. Yeah. And I was like, okay. He's like, what are you going to fast? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, I was like, what are you going to fast? He's like, I'm going to fast bread. I'm like, bread? I'm like, we're trying to, be with Jesus. He is the bread of life. Like, why are we
Yeah,
giving up
you
bread?
realize how much bread is in
And then I
everything.
was like, holy crap. I'm like, he told me that. No pizza. Certain taco shells you can't eat because that's considered bread, right? Hamburgers. No breadsticks with your pasta or your salads. I was like, I mean, he didn't even hesitate, guys. This is my buddy. And he's like, he's willing to show up in the time of need in my life. He's like, I'll give this up because I don't know about y'all, but bread's almost in everything we eat.
Hot Pockets, pizza roll.
I mean, you name it.
PB&J. I mean,
even if you're trying to eat healthy, it's like, yeah, let's eat like, the meat over here and here's the vegetables and don't forget your breadsticks. It's like, oh God.
When you go to Logan's, no roll.
No roll. I mean, none of it.
You
Olive Garden, Red Lobster, none of the good stuff, right?
Mia, where you at, Mia? Mia goes to Logan's for the rolls. So she fasted bread. Why go to
She
Logan's?
just shrivel up.
Yeah.
So, anyways, he didn't hesitate. Guys, let me ask you this. Who in your circle would not hesitate if you asked him for anything? If you don't have a friend like that, I dare for you to start fasting and praying for a friend like that. Yeah. I grew up with a couple of them that I still would call to this day, and I think they would answer the phone. And I don't see them all the time. And I just remember things changing. Little did I know, just a couple years later, we would be having a couple events at the church. We had an overseer here, and I had went to hang out with this girl, right? And at this time, like the youth pastor that was here was allowing you and me to speak a little bit. We were getting used to doing this. Like, I don't know about y'all, but if you've never public speak, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. I was that kid, like I said earlier, that did not want, don't ask me to say anything or read anything. I'm good right here in the back. And that's not what God had planned for me. And I'm not boasting on me. I'm boasting on what God can do through you if you allow him to. And little did I know, just a couple of years later, after just being obedient and having some of those bigger events, the girl that I ended up married, their youth group would come to our events in this room. And my youth pastor looked at some of us and was like, hey, man, I need to get this whole section, take all these chairs and push them over here, and we need to sweep the floor. And I was like, okay. Because at Hobby Lobby, that's where I worked. That's what I did every night when I closed, is I'd take one of those big dust mops, and I would sweep the whole floor. And I was like, Lord, I just did this last night because I closed every Tuesday night.
So you're telling me you met your wife when you were sweeping the youth room?
No.
I was going to say,
So
hey, after service, y'all come see me. Well,
yeah. So if he asks you to clean, you never know who's watching, right? So what I'm getting at is I was doing that. So we put the chairs up. I started sweeping, and they were still here, and I didn't realize that I was her teenage crush, and we're both now 19, 20 years old. 21 years old, and she's standing in the back, and she's like, I want to marry a guy that serves like that and doesn't complain. I'm just sweeping the floor. No dust bunnies getting away from me, baby. Let's go.
Laser focus.
I went from trying to throw myself into relationships to being obedient and allowing God to do whatever he wanted to, right? Not because I wanted a microphone, because I just told God, if you will let me just talk about you, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And so we have that big event, and then we have an overseer come to the church, and he's going to do a prophetic night. And she texts my buddy and his wife, and it's like, hey, we're going to come hang out. And we had kind of been talking, and we had gone and hung out a couple of times. I thought I was hanging out with her. And then my buddy and his wife, that I was like, here's everything. I want some accountability. I'm tired of being addicted to this. I'm tired of falling into relationships like this. I'm tired of doing these things. I hid behind, chairs and stuff because I was like kind of robbed of it from an education as well. So I'm not the most fluent reader or speller, so I would hide and like don't do those kind of things. Like Just I would make all the excuses, right? And I remember after that night, we went to Huddle House again, and we're all hanging out. And they all leave. And I think Peko and Lauren, y'all have been married forever at that point, it felt like. And my buddy, who just a couple years later looked at me and said, I'm going to give up bread for you. That's a real friend when he's not going to eat pizza or pizza rolls or all the good stuff like we talked about. He said, hey, man, she really likes you. I think if you play your cards right, God's going to show up and allow you to get married maybe. And I was like, bro, that's just so big. I'm like, marriage and then a mortgage. I don't know about that.
Man, you said something, and it reminded me when you and I started getting the opportunity to preach, and to even lead teams. There wouldn't be a Wednesday night. We were also responsible for cleaning. We used the youth room for multiple things back then, and we had to celebrate recovery on Friday night. It was our duty to clean the room. And I remember our services lasted from 6:30 to 8:30. We would get done and we would clean the church, and we'd be at Huddle House by like 9:15. And I remember we spoke together. Like, I spoke 15 minutes, he came and spoke 15 minutes.
No, it was a 15-minute word, and each of us had 1 point and 1 scripture, and you went last, and I went first, and there was a dude in the middle, but I don't remember who it was.
Right, I think it might have been Hunter or something.
Yeah, I think so.
So afterwards, we do what we always do. We're in there cleaning the bathroom, and a guy walks in, and he's like, "Man, how was youth tonight?" And I'm just like, "Hey, it was great. Who spoke?" I said, "Me, Jobo, and Hunter." And he goes, "You spoke tonight?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You're cleaning the bathroom?" I said, "Man, if I can't do this, I can't do that." Still to this day, he's actually sitting in this room right over there. He'll tell you, still to this day, that spoke life to him, because I was more concerned with serving than I was leading. And really, you and I, we didn't go to Bible school. We don't have credentials. I got my diploma, but you didn't get yours. But it's just a diploma, nothing fancy about it. We were blessed with the opportunity in ministry because we were obedient and we served. And that was our main goal, is we would serve. So, and I think that goes for more than just ministry. So, but you went through this dark time, man. But you had you had people in your life that knew you, that saw you, that said, "No, I'm not going to let Jobo fall away." But what it took was you admitting, "This is what I'm going through." And there's so much power in that. I don't think you understand that when you confess to somebody. I'm not saying get up here on stage and be like, "I did this last night." What I mean is,
That's
like,
why we
find
don't give y'all
somebody that you can
microphones.
trust, a friend, a leader, and just say, "Hey, this is what I'm going through." Many of you have called me, the guys, and said, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. I'm doing some emotional stuff. Can you be with me? Can you pray with me?" Most of you, I've sat in my office and we've talked. And that's what it's for. Is I just want to help you. Because when you tell somebody, "Hey, this is what I'm going through," then the devil loses his power to be able to use that against you. It's like, if you keep it hidden, then it'll always be in the back of your mind, like, what if somebody finds out? What if somebody knew?
Yeah, I heard this the other day. Is like, has any of you guys ever dated someone and like they changed their passcode on their phone? And you're like, "Can I have the passcode?" And they're like, "No." If there's nothing to hide, you're like, "Sure." You probably don't even have a passcode. But if you keep changing stuff, they're hiding it. So like, if they keep doing those things, guys, red flag. Red
Big
flag.
red flag.
Just walk away. I'll go back. So when I did that and I had that buddy that was like, "Yeah, I'll give up bread." On the flip side, I had a buddy I actually lived with for a while, and I was messing around with a girl in the wrong way and not honoring her as a daughter and the princess of the High King. And he caught us in the act of, sex. You guys are mature. And he did nothing about it. He didn't get mad. He didn't call me out. He didn't be like, whatever, this, that, and the other. Just a couple months later, he's like, "Hey, my mom and dad want you to move out." That was it. Those kind of friends are not the ones that are going to be able to persevere through the storms of life. I'm not telling you that you need to go get rid of friends, but what I am telling you is that you need a select group of friends. When all hell breaks loose, you can go to them, because that's what helps you get through the darkest times of your life.
Yeah, man. So the thing about the dark times of our life is most of us have found that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And even though we walk through a dark season, and here's the thing, I just want to say this. Just because you follow Jesus does not mean you're not going to walk through a dark time. So if you're sitting here tonight and you think, hey, I'm coming to church, I follow Jesus, I'm never going to endure a storm again. I don't know who lied to you, but you'll probably go through more things. But the thing is that you have Jesus now. You have accountability now. You have people around you that can help you, that can be there for you. So you get out of this dark time. Obviously, you meet your wife. You do all this. You become youth pastor, man. So,
Yeah, I just want to become a youth pastor.
yeah,
We're not against school. We're not up here saying like don't go if you feel called, don't go to a ministry school. I'm all about that. It just wasn't in my cards. I met my wife, and she's the pastor's daughter, and I was still here, and she was there, and we were dating. And I'll never forget, um, we were doing some discipleship stuff with some teenagers in the youth, and she said, "Hey, my dad wants to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in trouble." Y'all ever like been called on? You're like, I haven't. There's nothing to hide. There's nothing in there. There's nothing in here. Nothing's in my car. And you're like freaking out.
it's
You're
like
like,
you
why are you?
didn't do it, but you
Why?
feel like you did.
Yeah, it's like you're so used to being in trouble. When you're not in trouble, you don't know how to not be in trouble. Like you have to, once you start living the right way, right, and you just keep making the next right move because God asked you to do that. Eventually, when people call your name, you're not going to be like, "Ugh." And I'll never forget. She's like, "My dad wants to talk to you." I'm like, "Oh my God, he's going to tell me I can't date her." I was like freaking out. So like, it's like July of like 2015, 2016, something like that. So I go to her house. And I'm like, okay, because we're supposed to go on a date that night, and then we have small group at her church. There was a young adult small group. And we were going, and I was like, all right, cool. And I was like, I'm just kind of ready to get this over with. And he sits down. He's like, all right, John Wesley, like we are like really impressed of like what God's doing in your life or whatever. We want you to come here and be the youth pastor here at Liberty Church in Arab, Alabama. And I was like, okay, why? Like I'm not even married. We're not even engaged, let alone married, right? And that's what I'm saying, guys. In our society, it says you're going to graduate, you got to go get this degree so you can make this money, live in this house, have this car, have this many kids, have the perfect right. Like, how do you get 2.5 is the right amount of kids? What are you going to have a kid? Yeah, this is my family here. Like what? No.
Just the legs.
So what I'm saying is, it if Christianity was a pyramid, right, or a triangle, my oldest is learning shapes right now. A triangle is we think it's supposed to be like this, and it's really upside down, right? Because Jesus told his disciples, if you want to be right, the one that's important, then you need to learn to serve. Right? Swept the floor is how my wife was like, yeah, I'd like to date someone. And she didn't know it was literally going to be me. And the door opened, and I was like, let me pray about it, and prayed through it, and God opened some doors, and some things happened. And next thing I know, it's like you're going to speak to 30 to 40 kids every Wednesday night. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that night when I was like, God, if you will let me speak about you however you want, it was going to be every Wednesday night to a bunch of crazy youth kids that are figuring life out.
Yeah, man. We were part of a big youth ministry, and we average about 60 kids, and I'm like, I could not imagine having 300 people in here every week. Dude, I wouldn't have any hair left.
Dude, I
I would be
I
bald.
I have more, like my wife looked at me probably about, I don't know, Autumn's gonna laugh at this. Probably about 6 months ago. I had just got a haircut. She's like, you've got so many gray hairs in your head. And I'm like, we're youth pastors. What do you expect? And I take it as a badge of honor. Every gray hair was a battle that hopefully I helped that student win through. If I turn gray, bro, I'm gonna rock it.
That's right.
I'm
I don't know.
serious.
There's not hope for me. It's just going to turn white. I mean, I got red hair.
Oh.
So, man, I'll say this. You're an incredible youth pastor. You got a great youth ministry, and dude, I'm honored to say that you and you've been a youth pastor what 7 years now, 8 years.
Yeah, August will be 8 years.
So 8 years. Lauren and I just 5 years, just a month ago, and looking back, I'm like, man, I would have loved to have a youth pastor. Through my like the juniors in here when they graduate, I would have been their youth pastor the entire time. And like
Yeah, I got seniors like that this year.
so that means so much to me. It's because I was able to be consistent, and they would have someone there with me and my wife, and most of our team has been here for a long time. Um, so man, we're closing up, but if you could leave one thing with the students or the leaders tonight, what would it be?
So yeah, I was going to read my scripture is Galatians chapter 6 verse 9. You guys have probably heard it. It says, "So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, you will reap a harvest of blessing. So don't give up." I just want to tell you, don't give up. Don't give up on if God's given you a word that He's going to follow through with it, but you have to do your due diligence in your side of it. I'll put it to you like this: be consistent, not a trend. Be consistent, not a trend. You know, one of my favorite fruits of the Spirit is faithfulness. Jesus was faithful by showing up. Jesus was faithful by having conversations with people. Jesus was faithful by praying with people, talking with people. When all hell breaks loose in your high school or maybe a part-time job you got or whatever it may be, they're going to look to you because here's the one thing: you're consistent. And Jesus in your life is not a trend. Jesus has never been a trend, guys. Jesus is here to stay. I had a buddy of mine one time. He was strung out on heroin, met the Lord, and had been clean for like 2 years. And his older brother looked at him and said, "Jesus is just a phase in your life, bro. Eventually you'll be back." And he looked at him and said, "No, man, Jesus is the real deal."
Come on.
And 6, 7 years later, he's still walking it out. So let me ask you, in 20 years, like I said earlier, when you look back on your youth group, is this going to just be a trend and a season in your life? Or is Christianity and the relationship with Jesus Christ, is that a lifestyle?
That's good. That's good. Man, would y'all give it up for Jobo? Thank you, man, again for coming out. I just want to ask, and thank you for anyone that watched online.